Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm MJ Bull. I'm your host of UnBolted. And today we have with us Emelie Braxton, who is a friend, a homesteader, and an engaged patriot that's got a pretty amazing story. So I'm really excited to bring her story to you today. Emelie, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I've gotten to know Emelie for a few years. When she ran for office, she ran for school board a few years ago, and kind of have followed her story. And so just found out about other parts of her story that I thought the world needed to hear. And so anyway, let's get into it, Emelie. So tell
Sure.
everybody. I love for people to kind of know, how did you get to where you are? You do a lot of things, and so it's going to be full. But yeah, tell everybody about how you got to where you are now.
It pretty much started at birth. I've kind of been a person that has asked questions and may have gotten into some trouble with that. But I'm also not afraid to ask questions. In school, I was that annoying kid who asked questions and everyone would want to go on to another topic, but I just had questions. And that really is my life in a nutshell. I've always been a person that is interested in knowledge and science and just wants to know all the things. I'm very curious and like to get involved. It's funny because there's a large side of me that is quite an introvert, and I'm not a hugger. And I like my private space and my solitude and my, what's the bat cave called, or maybe it's Superman, the something of solitude, or I don't know, I can't remember. but I also like to be engaged. I like to communicate with people. I like to hear about themselves, and I like to find things out and learn things new. And so I ran for East Valley School Board in 2021. And at that time, obviously, we were living in East Valley, and
which is in Spokane Valley, Washington.
Spokane Valley, yeah, yep. And we were living within walking distance of an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. And our kids were going to private school. So I wondered why we were doing that. Why was I driving all the way across town to a private school when I could walk literally our children to school and save that money in gas? And, tuition was expensive and things like that. And so it really brought into perspective education. And so I started to go down the rabbit hole of curriculums and seeing, what public schools were about. And there were some things that I didn't really agree on. And so the first thing is faith. Our Catholic faith is a big part of our family. I have 5 children, and the kids and I all became Catholic in 2019.
Okay.
So it's called a convert. I was baptized Lutheran. And so that, had me looking at curriculums, looking at the schools that were near us, and they just weren't good enough. And I think education is really, really important. And spending time with your family is a really, really important too. And so I decided to run for school board to see if I could make a difference in my local community. And it was the first kind of major office. I think in elementary school, I ran for treasurer or something. And in Girl Scouts, I was, something, but you didn't have, lots of an election and everything. And so I was running against the incumbent. And then there was one other lady who was also running. And I learned very quickly that I don't like public speaking. I mean, if I'm prepared, I can read a speech or, do a reading or whatever, that's fine. But kind of off the cuff, I'm a thinker person and kind of a logical thinker person. And so I like to be prepared. I'm not one that can think of a question super quickly. And so I basically, my whole campaign was running defense. And I looked up the incumbent's previous voting record and decided that everybody needed to know how he was voting, because maybe if you did, you might not want to vote for him. So that's pretty much all I did. I didn't win the summer election. But that's all right. I think I was like 222 votes away.
The August primary.
So yeah, August primary.
So you had more than 2 people in the race then.
Yeah, exactly. There were 3 of us. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's all right. I learned a lot. And when it came time for the November election, I wrote my name in. So, that's all right. But I learned a lot about the process. I learned a lot about what school boards do and how much they affect curriculum and everyday goings on with your child at public school, with the teachers and the hiring and firing and staff sort of, situations like that, and the superintendent and that relationship. And so 2021, right, that was like right in the thick of COVID. And so it was a wild time to sort of be involved with school politics. And I got to know other people that were running in other districts, like in Central Valley, Spokane Valley. There's 3 different districts in Spokane Valley. And other places also in North Spokane in the Meade School District. And I met some people, Tiffany Smiley, I think that's her last name. I think it's Tiffany, right? Okay. And some other people that were part of just Washington state politics to network and, see what their words of wisdom were and ask questions and advice and doorbelling and, and do I make like knockers and this or that and how to do a campaign. And so that was pretty enlightening. And then led us, sure,
hold on real quick, I'm kind of curious, did COVID kind of launch you more into that, do you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it definitely got me more involved in politics. I'd always been a voter, but not necessarily a super informed voter. And I didn't really get more heavily involved in politics until the 2016 presidential election. That was a really big election for our country. And it was also a really big election for our family personally. And it divided our family quite a bit. And so that major election kind of started my politicking or
and like your internal family, like your husband and yourself, that was there was more external.
Yeah, no, my husband and I have been most things we're pretty aligned. He's a little bit more independent on some things. And but the great thing about it is we can have conversations, and he's very intelligent and very smart. And we can just talk about stuff and get difference of opinions, and there's no hard feelings, and it's just sharing information and sharing your opinion like normal adults.
Having a discussion without people being, going off the rails because you might disagree, right?
And I welcome healthy discussion like that. I think that's kind of missing in this day and age, and bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. So were you always a Republican voter, Emelie?
No, not always. There was during the Obama elections, I got a little sucked into you're a white person, you better vote for Obama, or you're racist if you don't. And there was a difficult part of my history in my 20s and 30s, and more colorful than it is now. And
we all have a past, Emelie. It's all right.
But so there was I was not as confident and not as strong-willed as I am today. And so I may have, listened to some other people a little bit more and gleamed on to some other things and people that I was around that maybe didn't share my beliefs. I also didn't have a very strong faith at that time. And when you're kind of floating in that nebulous of, pop culture, whatever, you sort of try to gleam onto something. And I didn't necessarily gleam onto healthy, productive citizens of the world. But since, 2016, that I could definitely identify more with more conservative values. I'm Catholic, so we're definitely pro-life and, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got more involved, more active, more paying attention in 2016 or during that presidential election that kind of launched you to be more in tune, engaged.
Yeah. And also helps with having children too. We had children a little bit later than life. So our first daughter was born in 2013 and I was 33. So do the math. Yes, I'm 45. And that also helps having a child kind of open your eyes to world issues and local issues. And, you're bringing this brand new life into the world and to care and nurture and protect, well, what are the things I need to protect this little, bundle of crying? And you just start questioning things and researching things. And I don't have a super significant educational background. I did some public school. I did some homeschooling. I did college, flunked out of a college, did a little bit of community college. So I do have a AAS degree, a glorified, 2-year degree. But it hasn't really stopped me in life. I didn't need a higher level education to do the things that were important to me. And my degree, my AAS degree, I got in from Spokane Falls Community College, led me to healthcare. And so I was in medical billing before I had children and before I met my husband. And then I worked at Sacred Heart for 7 years until our first daughter was about 1. And then I became a stay-at-home mom.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting that you have that medical experience in your background as well. I know we're going to continue on your story. So
high up. So I started in payer contracting at Sacred Heart. I guess I already said that. And moved to different other departments and got to know corporate healthcare very well. And also got to know the Washington State Nursing Association, the WSNA, that relationship with the department that I was working in very well, because I had helped set up contract negotiation meetings and just the dynamic of, unions.
Yeah. So kind of more HR.
Yeah. I was an executive administrative assistant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. So you started having kids. You
Yeah.
started to kind of, look at things and carry on, because I know you have a couple of children.
Yes. So our first daughter was born in 2013. And I worked part-time for that first year. And then it just really hurt my soul to be away from her. It was it wasn't what I was meant to be. And then we had our second daughter in 2015. We had a third daughter in 2017, a fourth daughter in 2019. And then our son was born in 2022.
Okay. Yes, you got a son in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
The
you have
girls
4
were all
daughters
2
and a
years
son.
apart, and
Okay.
then our son was 2.5 years apart because their birthdays are all in the fall, so it's kind of funny. God's funny.
So 5 kids total, Emelie?
Yes, 4
Okay.
girls, and our youngest is a boy.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. So yeah, talk about kind of, through that time, like what were you seeing? What were you doing? Again, that led you, took you to COVID, then took you to running for office. I mean, was there anything else that I know it's very busy when you're at home with your kids, and especially when you have 4 or 5 of them. Anything else that happened in there that you think was instrumental in,
Yeah.
where you are today?
Yeah, the one of the major things was when we were still living in East Valley, and I went to the grocery store, and we were told how many eggs we could buy at that time, and they were really rationing eggs, and I
Really?
needed, I
What
needed
is this?
more. So this was like 2000, oh man, 2022 maybe, or 2023. So we've lived where we are for 3 years. And I got this lady got really mad at me because I wanted like 5 dozen eggs, and we were only allowed 2. And but I needed more for my large family, and she got really upset that I had such a large family, and it was an awkward conversation in front of the eggs.
So was this during like more recently, like when Joe Biden was president and the egg
Yeah.
prices went crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes more sense
Yeah.
now. I was
Yeah.
thinking it was before
Yeah, they were, you
2020.
could only buy 2 dozen eggs at a time, and I needed 5. And so I literally went home and ordered chicks off the internet because we needed chickens then.
I was gonna say, and hence, yeah, the homesteading, right?
Yeah. So that is what started the homesteading. We had our chickens in our backyard, and we had too many than we were supposed to, and then 3 of them turned into roosters. So we got some interesting mail from the neighbors because they were crowing. But we also had decided that we were going to get out of the city and try to find some land and be more food security. So with all of the COVID nonsense and the chain, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
That has to do with COVID, or
like the you couldn't get things in the store. Everything was supply chain. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, and so there were lots of supply chain issues. Everyone was going crazy over toilet paper and water and things like that. It really brought to front, if something significant. I mean, COVID was significant, yes, but if there was something like, a bomb or, something like that, would I be able to feed my family? And would I be able to feed my family if I was solely reliant on the grocery store like everybody else, right? And so we decided that we were going to try to be more self-sufficient and also raise the animals and the fruits and vegetables that we eat. Because that also led, when you start talking, well, at least me personally, this is how it went. When I started researching raising animals and how they are raised in big agriculture, and then you go down that of big farming, big ag, this or that, you decide that, well, maybe I could raise this chicken in a healthier way. Even just doing the research of the nutrition in eggs.
right?
And then you see, there are farm fresh eggs, and there are cage free eggs and free range eggs and organic eggs, and all these eggs. And what's the difference between this, very cheaper egg where you get a dozen for like $2, and then this, hoity toity all organic egg for like $6? Like, what am I missing out? Could I grow that egg on our homestead at a cheaper, a cheaper way and provide a higher nutrition for our family.
Well, and they look very, very different
Yes.
when you crack them, don't they? I mean,
Yes.
you have not had a farm fresh, cage free egg.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, you need to go. It's like tomatoes. It's like
Yep.
growing your own tomato and buying a tomato in the grocery store. They're not even close to the same thing.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. So we took our 26 illegal city chickens. We weren't in an HOA, so that's good.
You weren't in a what?
An HOA.
Oh, HOA. But they deemed your chickens to be illegal?
Well, so we had a few more than we were supposed to. I think we were supposed to only have 9 and we had 26.
Is that a city? What is that? Is that
Yeah, that's a city ordinance
in
between
the Spokane Valley?
Yeah, it's like that in in the Spokane City too. You are allowed a certain amount of chickens with the square footage, and it's very heavy regulated because you can't have any roosters. The size, the height of the fence, and how close it is to any outbuildings, and there's quite a few regulations around some city chickens.
Wow, good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know. But you and so were you in the city of Spokane Valley?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of all of that kind of led to you basically going, okay, we need to venture out a little bit more.
Yeah, I had grew up on the Little House on the Prairie books, and I was gonna channel my Ma Ingalls and head out to the country.
Emelie, did you grow up that way?
No, I'd say so. My parents lived in town. My grandparents lived in town, but my great grandma had a farm, who I'm actually named after, in Eitzen, Minnesota. And so it's like I'm the, what is that? 4th generation or 3rd generation farmer, but it skipped a couple generations. And I remember growing up visiting our small town in Minnesota and seeing the farm and things like that. And I've always had a love of animals. I horseback ride when I was younger and things like that, but have no farming or, driving truck or 4-H experience, things that I like country Western music. So that, that doesn't count.
that was the most of your history with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had
embraced this idea that you wanted to move out and your husband as well. And
yeah. My husband is a software engineer and he works from home. So as long as we could get, thank you, Elon Musk, with his, satellites, we could have, go anywhere that there was a strong internet connection.
Wow.
So that led us to about 20 miles west of Spokane, out in the West Plains.
Okay. Kind of out back by Cheney-ish.
Yeah,
area.
west of Cheney, yeah.
And so when was that you moved out there?
So this summer was our 3rd summer.
Okay, so 2022, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Shortly after our son was born.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. And so tell me, how goes it? So I kind of know a little bit. I keep up with you just a little bit, but I don't really know the extent of it. So tell us how many animals you have and what kinds. And
Sure. Yeah. So we have about 20 acres and most of it is wooded and pine trees and things like that. And it's very rocky in some areas. We have quite a lot of basalt. And I'd like to consider myself a farming nerd. And I'm really into regenerative farming and, taking care of the earth that God gave us, and that, being responsible people and no chemicals and no, no sprays, no, everything is organic and, the way God intended. No, And so we came with our 26 chickens, and then that has expanded quite a bit. Now we have, oh, wow. I'd say we probably have like 200 chickens.
Wow.
And then we have geese, and we have ducks and guinea fowls and turkeys and rabbits, pigs, and goats.
Rabbits, pigs, and goats. My goodness. Okay. That
Yeah.
is a farm. So
Yeah.
did you have help along the way? Like, did you make friends with some people that kind of help mentor or guide you? Or was this all purely you doing research and trial and error?
Nope, this is trial and error, and I am a member of YouTube University. And, thank God for YouTube. There are some, every summer, Coeur d'Alene does a homesteading conference. That is amazing. And so then I learned names like Joel Salatin, which you might recognize that one. There's also the Homesteading family, which is in northern Idaho. So they're kind of close to this area. And they have an incredible wealth of knowledge on their website. And they have classes that you can take. And I just started watching videos and reading articles. And the first summer that we were here, I signed up for a chicken processing class from a local farm that was kind of outside of, I guess, kind of Medical Lake-ish area, and went to this class out in the middle of nowhere and watch them process a chicken. I was like, oh, cool, I can do that. So now we need to raise meat chickens.
So do you want to go just explain a little bit to people what processing chickens actually means?
Sure. Yeah. So there's many different ways that you can dispatch the chicken. And
such a nice term.
Yeah. I'm sure there are so many farming phrases like running around like a chicken with his head cut off. There are people that have been disturbed by, seeing, because once you chop a head off a chicken, it does continue to run around because it's, nerves, and then its nerves are still firing even without a brain. It's kind of fascinating, but we don't do that. When we dispatch a chicken, we use, it's called a killing cone. So it's like a cone shape, and you stick it upside down, and then its head comes out, and basically sharp knife and cut its throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm allowed to say that on that, I guess.
It's all good. I believe in real and raw, and let's just be truthful here. So I don't think anybody would be surprised by that.
Yeah. So and then after a couple minutes, then you put it in a scalder, which is a large pot of hot water. I think it has to be like 140-ish degrees. I think it's somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that. That's my husband's job. And you put them in a scalder because that loosens the feathers up. The feathers are they're in the skin, right? And when you heat it up, the pore expands. And so after it goes into the scalder, then it goes into a plucker. And we have this machine. It's like a drum. And on the inside are these nipple finger looking things. And it spins around in a circle and gets all the feathers off. Most of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And the kids, they all help from every aspect of this. Our 5 children are right in there helping. And then it goes into from the plucker, it goes into a cooler, and then the cooler, it goes on the visceration table. So we have to take out the innards. We cut the feet off and the neck, and then scoop out all the cavity of the internal organs. We save the hearts and livers. A lot of our customers, and we personally eat a lot of animal organs. They're very good for you.
Right.
And then it gets into back to the cooler, and then we put it in a shrink wrap bag, and it looks just like you got it from a grocery store.
Wow. So how does it taste?
It's phenomenal. And there's a couple different breeds of chickens. It's very common to do a Cornish cross, which is a very fast raising chicken, meaning that from birth to cooler or freezer, it's about 9 weeks. And then there's a broiler chicken. Most of your Tyson
Cornish
chicken
one? Is that Cornish one quite a bit smaller then, kind of like a Cornish hen?
No, because I call them a mutant. They grow very fast and they're very ugly and they don't have very many feathers. And so they are, the productivity. And you think about, big food out there. It's very common. Your rotisserie chicken at Costco is a Cornish cross. In fact, Costco has its own farms for their chickens. Look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we like the red, like a broiler is a slower breed of meat chicken. They takes about 12 weeks instead of the 8 or 9 weeks, but they've got, to me, a nice layer of fat. And when you roast it or bake it or fry it, it's got that crispy, it's just delicious. And the process for dispatching a chicken, a goose, a duck, or a turkey is pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Fascinating. I'm learning and I'm so interested in it. And you talk a little bit about what's going on at Costco. I think that's interesting for people to understand too. Like you said, look into that. There's been some recent videos about what they do with their chicken, after processing, like what happens to it, and whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. Some people, I shared a video and some people said, that's not true. I raise chickens and that's not what happens. But I think those are things that we've got to question, is what is happening to these, before it gets to our table, what all is happening in, big food, if you will, compared to like what you're talking about, which seems, very natural and very wholesome. You're not injecting anything into your chickens before you freeze them, or, it sounds like it's a very natural process.
Yeah, there's a really good movie called Food Inc. that I highly recommend people to watch. Might make you a little sick to your stomach, but it's a really good movie. And if you think about a chicken on our farm, we get that chick I'm specifically talking about meat birds, a meat chicken. We get that chick in the mail from a hatchery. And that animal, from the moment it steps into our farm, is treated with the utmost respect. We are thanking God for this animal. My children have named them. Some people get after me. They're like, how can you eat anything that you name? But it's a sacred life. It's a gift from God, and I'm going to treat it with respect. And so are our children. And I think raising children to have a respect for life of all species is really important. And they help take care of the chicks. They help take care of them if they get an injury. And I've researched lots of natural ways to take care of chickens through diet and supplements and herbs and apple cider vinegar in their water and, things like that. And my children are just right there, watching everything and absorbing that and learning that. And it's funny, this was our 3rd summer on the farm, but it took just a couple of weeks for them to be feral farm kids, and they're running around without shoes. And our 3-year-old son is pretty much naked all the time. Sorry to the UPS guy. He's just running around like Lord of the Flies.
Well, it's going to be quite a process too. I mean, if you've got 200 chickens and you've got, there's a lot of things that have to be done on a daily basis. What does a typical day look like for you and your family, Emelie?
Yeah, well, I'm an early riser. I've always been an early riser, and I don't need an alarm. Pretty much between 4 and 5, I am up, ready to go. And then we do chores. And so our life kind of revolves around when the sun gets up. The sun hasn't really been coming up until closer to 6. as we head into fall. And so we'll go out, the kids and I will do chores. My husband's job has East Coast hours. So he starts work at between about 6:30 in the morning. And we do chores, and then we come in and have breakfast, and then we start homeschool, and then we'll have Hobbit breakfast at about 10 o'clock. And
Hobbit breakfast?
Yeah, if you've ever read the Hobbit books, they talk about like second breakfast. And so we call it Hobbit breakfast.
That's funny.
And then do a little bit more schooling. We'll have lunch and then pretty much be done for the day. In the afternoon, we've got deliveries for our customers who get our eggs and things, and farm chores and dinner, and then chores at night. So we're probably on average outside, golly, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day. We're outside taking care of our animals.
Oh, that's awesome. And not you mean not in front of screens all day?
No, our children don't have screens. We have a TV, but it's not even plugged in, and it's upstairs in our bedroom that it's not in the main living space. We don't watch it very often.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of information coming out about how good sunlight truly is for us. We've been lied to about that as well.
Yeah, I don't wear sunscreen either, and I am a Norwegian, German, Irish descent.
You and I are both pretty fair skinned, and I've done the same thing. I've stopped wearing sunglasses. I haven't worn sunglasses for a couple of years. And
look at my tan. I mean, you probably can't see it, but yeah.
And I'm very tan. No sunscreen, and I go out on the lake and I don't burn. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah. Go down that rabbit hole to see how your gut health is affected by your sun tan and sunburn.
Yeah. And I want to get into that because I know that's a big part of your story. I was thinking about something else, but I'll think of it. But yeah, what a great thing though, that your kids are out there in nature and learning, you know, about life, learning about, you know, nature. There's a lot of things that parallel, right? And it's very connected. And I know your faith is a huge part of that as well. What just a great learning opportunity. What do they think about it?
They love it. You know, I've prayed and thought about, you know, what happens if the kids didn't like it, and, you know, would we still do it? And I think that we would, to a certain level, maybe more of a level that I could obtain, because I love animals and I am in my happy space in the goat pasture, you know, scratching the goats or giving the pigs belly rubs. And we're the kind of people that our animals are immersed in love. Like, when we have new people over and they see the kids hop over the electric fence to get in the pig area, they're like, "Oh my gosh, your pigs are going to eat your kids." And I'm like, yeah, that could happen. Pigs are big, and they, you know, it's why serial killers have pigs, right? So yeah, I totally get that. They're dangerous and big, but if you saw our pigs, the second the kids go in there and I go in there, and they don't go in there without adult supervision, but the pigs just roll over. They come over to you, snort you with their big old noses, and they flop over expecting a belly rub. So they're very spoiled.
I bet. Oh, that's awesome. I love the picture of it. So you don't have cows and you don't have,
No.
Okay. And then curious if you're thinking about cows.
Yeah. So part of our regenerative farming is building up the soil and building up the land and the biodiversity of the soil. And where we're at, we don't have a lot, because we have lots of trees. So we don't have the pasture land. So it requires forest management. And we learned a lot about that because the first summer that we lived there, the Gray Fire out in Medical Lake happened, and it got 2 miles from our house. So that was a very eye-opening experience of learning forest management and, you know, ground cover and the feat of pine needles that are, underneath everything.
Especially
So
20 acres of it, right?
yeah, mostly wooded. Yeah, yep. And so then, so we're learning how to, we also have a wood stove. So we need the trees to be able to provide heat and during the cold seasons. And so learning about that, of course, from YouTube University, also your local fire district. They are happy to come out to your property, and it doesn't even cost anything. And they'll just tell you about fire safety things. And so that's a huge blessing to us too. And so dairy cow is definitely on the horizon. And of course, I need my gelding prancing around as a horse lover. But we've got to build up the biodiversity of our soil. And we also don't have a tractor, and we don't have a side-by-side. We have hand trucks and small children, and I'm strong like an ox. And, we got a couple wagons and we get things done. But what we do have is we have 5 bulldozers that are called pigs. And there's a couple, we have 2 different kind of breeds of pigs, and they have a different ability or specialty. So our Kuni, his name is Dexter. He's very cute. He's a good rooting pig. And all pigs root to a certain degree. But then we also have some Idaho pasture pigs, which are pasture pigs, right? And our future farm outlook is rotating our chickens around with our pigs, with our goats. We need a ruminant, which is a goat or a cow, something like that, to help build up the biodiversity in our soil. And all those different animals, they add a different element to our farm and a different resource if they, can provide milk or meat or building up the soil. And so we're just learning that as we go. So we haven't had a cow yet because we don't have enough pasture land for that.
Right. What are your goats? Do you do dairy with your goats at all?
Yeah, we will. So we have 2 Nubians that are females, and goats have an in-heat season from about August to January, December. We're brand new to goats. We just got them this summer. And so hopefully we'll find them a boyfriend. And then we'll have babies and milk in the spring. And then we have 2 Nigerian dwarfs. Mozzarella is his name. He's a buckling. And then his future girlfriend is Bree. But they're both babies. They were born in the spring, so they're like 6 months old.
And how big?
Yeah, they're little.
They're like the miniature little goats.
Yeah,
Oh
Nigerian dwarf. Yeah, and then we have 2 more, Pepper Jack and Colby. So Pepper Jack and Colby are mini Nubians, and they are, when you cross a Nubian with a Nigerian dwarf, you get a mini Nubian. So they're like a medium-sized goat. Wow. Nubian is like a big-sized goat.
Wow.
And so we have one as a wether. Colby is a wether, which is a castrated male goat. And then Pepper Jack is another buckling. So hopefully they'll be big enough next season to breed with. Cheddar and Cheese are the names of our Nubian goats.
That's so cute. So about 20 years ago, let's see, is that right? No, it's probably been more than that. 23 years ago, when my son was diagnosed with autism, I started researching, everything, right? And we actually started helping Farmer George out in Airway Heights to milk his cows. And I found out about raw milk, and I could actually drink raw milk, which I've been dairy intolerant, lactose intolerant almost my whole life. I could drink, more of it than I could drink the regular. And I found out how good it was for you. And so he talked a lot about the soil and replenishing the soil. We did that for, almost a year. We'd go out, the kids and I went out, on, it was either Saturdays or Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning. And we did that, and it was awesome. It was awesome to work with the cows, and he always named his dairy cows, but not his other cows. They were called Motts. Mott. And I said, Mott. And he goes, yeah, meat on the table. Mott 1, Mott 2, Mott 3. We don't name, like you said, we don't name our cows that are going to be processed.
Yeah.
But, it just was fascinating to me how good that was for us. And we would make kefir and cheese. And we couldn't, he had some bad health and things turned. So then we went up to Athol and got goat milk for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And raw goat milk. And it was great. I mean, it's so good for you. And definitely people need to dive into that research too about, raw milk. And they've just done so much to scare you off of, these things. And it's not the whole truth. And part of it, like Emelie said, is about their practices, right? Like how you treat your animals and what kind of, sanitary practices you have. So yeah, very exciting, Emelie. It's going to be fun to see how this continues to evolve. We had a good comment from Janet. It says, love all the names of your animals.
Sorry, my battery is gonna stop on my. I'm gonna unplug something here.
Okay. Yep. Get her figured out. We want to keep going because we've got to talk about your son. But I think that's what's so interesting is, sometimes things happen and it makes you dive in and like you said, question things. Go, why, and how did this happen? What is our food? How are they making our food? What's in our food?
Like who would have thought that we would have had to question things? I think it's working now. We'll blame my father-in-law. No.
Yeah, you definitely want to have some more battery. Or we could do a part 2 too, but hopefully you can figure it out.
I think it's charging. Okay. We're good.
Okay, good deal. So let's get into a little bit of, because I think this dives into, health, obviously, and the health of your family. Let's talk a little bit about what happened with your son. I'm going to share this one comment too real quick. We've got Vivian that said, just make sure you see this, Emelie. Emelie is a joy to listen to. She gives me a lot of hope.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet.
These are some of my people from X, I think, and then Janet's from Facebook. So, all right. So let's talk about your son. Let's talk about what happened with him.
Yeah. So Quintus is our son, and he is 3. And when he was, let's see here, my timeline here. I'm seeing. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
It's real and raw. I bring it to you real and raw.
Okay. All right. So in September of 2023, Quintus was 16 months old, and he all of a sudden stopped walking. And he had kind of just started walking that summer, and then he stopped. And he would cry, and he wouldn't want shoes to be put on, and he just wanted to be carried all the time. So at first I thought maybe it was, I don't know, just a behavioral thing. Maybe, he was teething, teething, or, he had a really big growth spurt. So maybe he, was having growing pains. And it's funny, if you go down the rabbit hole of growing pains, there's a lot of doctors out there that think growing pains really isn't a thing. But then if you talk to people who had growing pains, they're like, that's like a thing. So that was kind of the first thing that happened. And he also got in all of his teeth all at once. And if you're a mom and have had anybody go through teething does an amazing maybe amazing isn't quite the word, but it does some really weird symptoms. Like you can get a rash, you can have behavioral issues, like you can have food sensitivities all of a sudden, GI tract issues, sleep regression, like teething just does some really weird things. And so between a growth spurt and teething, we kind of thought he was just, growing. And then we took him to our pediatrician, who recommended getting a x-ray. I noticed that his ankles looked swollen, which is why he didn't want to wear shoes. And so we got his x-rays done, and that was in November of 2023. And the radiologist, after seeing his x-rays, said that he had rheumatoid arthritis. And that is an interesting thing that a radiologist would be able to diagnose that from an x-ray. They can't really if you do the research on that. So, question that. That's a good thing to question. And then it took quite a few months for us to be able to see a pediatric rheumatologist here in Spokane. And this side of the state, I'm pretty sure there's only one in our area. And so she's really, really busy. So we had to wait quite a long time. So that was from November 2023 to July 2024 is when we saw the pediatric rheumatologist in Spokane. And that's when we got the diagnosis of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, also known as JIA. And she came to that conclusion after a whole bunch of lab work drawn, and his inflammation markers and a rash. And there was, a flow chart of symptoms that he had. And so then the recommendation was first to get Kenalog injections at Shriners.
What kind of injections?
Kenalog. And so that's a form of a steroid. And to get that right into his joints, kind of like if you think of it as a fire, you want to try to suppress the fire before it spreads, right? So he had such a big amount of inflammation. Let's just, get it under control as quickly as we can.
Emelie, this seems like, rheumatoid arthritis is an arthritis. You think of that for older people. Is this becoming a new thing for?
Yeah. According to my research, if you research arthritis and inflammation, and then you can tie in ultra processed foods and how our flour is made and things like that. Inflammation is a huge thing among children and adults.
Wow. I had no idea that was even a thing for children, that they could have a rheumatoid arthritis or an arthritis.
Yeah. So he had the Kenalog injections in both ankles, in one knee, and in both wrists the summer of 2024. And
did he hurt all over, or was it mostly in his feet?
Mostly in his joints, and it was mostly his ankles that hurt. He never said that his knee hurt or anything like that. And in fact, he wouldn't say that his ankle would hurt. He would say my toe hurts. But I think that was just trying to teach him at such a young age that this is, the difference between an ankle and a toe, and like your foot and, the joint and things. And that was a pretty traumatic experience in itself, because we are already a kind of naturopathic family. And so when when Quintus was born, we did everything very as natural as we possibly could. So he didn't get the Hep B vaccine. He didn't get the vitamin K shot. He had an oral vitamins that I brought in. And he didn't get the erythromycin, the goop on the eyes. And so we're very natural people. Herbal,
Did you do any of the other childhood vaccinations on the schedule, Emelie?
No, none of them.
So none of them.
None of them. And so him going into Shriners to get the Kenalog injections would be his first time of some hardcore medicine.
Yeah.
And we don't even give our children ibuprofen or, anything like that. And so, so that was a big deal. That was a concern of mine of how he was going to react to that. And, Shriners was amazing. They are an amazing system here in the Spokane area. It's a blessing to have that facility in our community. I'm not completely anti, medicine.
Modern medicine.
Yeah, Western medicine. And we got treated with good time, respect, and everybody in there was really caring. And so the only tricky part was the doctor was running late. And so the medicine to make Quintus sleepy had wore off. And so he was like screaming and they had to pull him out of my arms. That was a traumatic for the old mom heart. But other than that, they were really bee's knees to Shriners.
And so he had these, how often did he have these injections?
He only had them once.
Okay.
And we only did them once to see how he was going to react.
Yeah.
The doctors can't tell you, oh, he will be fine for 6 months or 6 weeks or 6 days or 6 hours, whatever. And when we got home from that, and after the anesthesia wore off, he ran that day, like down the hallway in this little kind of wonky gait we called it the Quinny gait because his mobility was, not as developed because he had stopped walking for so long. And we called it the Quinny shuffle. And he did this like Quinny shuffle. And it was like, oh, wow. You went from like me carrying you, not really walking, to all of a sudden you Quinny shuffle down the hallway. And you could see that his joints weren't inflamed anymore. So we were like, cool, this is great. Let's this was awesome. And the Kenalog injections were one of the forms of treatments that our naturopathic doctor said that he would give his children that if they needed it. So it was also a thing that we were like, okay, we trust the science on the Kenalog.
Yeah. So you worked with a naturopathic doctor along the way as well. Okay.
Yeah. We've been seeing naturopathic doctors for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, and also a pediatrician. So we're not anti-Western medicine. Our pediatrician is a family friend, and he's a lovely man and someone who we trust. And that's important, to get to know your physician and trust them and ask questions. And he is completely fine with whatever we decide to do. If we take his advice or not, he is respectable about that and is completely on board to whatever we have, whatever we decide to do. Yeah. So then, so that summer of 2024, we were seeing the Spokane pediatric rheumatologist. And after the Kenalog injections, they wanted Quintus, after more blood work, they wanted Quintus to have quite a lot of more medical interventions. They wanted him to have a biologic infusion every 2 weeks.
Which
They
biologic, can I ask?
Actemra.
Okay.
They wanted him to have a oral steroid, prednisolone every day. And then I think maybe I'm getting Actemra mixed up. And then they also wanted him to have a needle, what's it called? You know, like when you, subcutaneously, when it's just underneath the skin. I think I might am having a brain fart on. Probably should have written that one down.
That's all right. We kind of get a picture.
Yeah. And so they wanted him to have those 3 things. And we were like, woo, like, let's talk about this. What are the case studies of a 2-year-old having all of this? Oh, there aren't any case studies? Oh, okay. Well, okay. And what about over the ages of 5 or under the ages of 5? There's not a lot of research with all of these medicines and very young children. And so, you know, that made us question it. And also how much he was improving on a daily basis after the Kenalog injections. And the first time that we met with the pediatric rheumatologist here in Spokane, I asked her about environmental issues. I asked her about our lifestyle of the farm, of the food that he was eating and nutrition. And she didn't have a very pleasant response when I asked her about diet and nutrition. And I took that as a red flag.
So what was the response? What was the not very pleasant response?
The scoffing, oh, that's what you are. You know, you get the label of, okay, crazy homeopathic, you know, my little witchcraft of whatever, my, you know, tonics and things like that in my pantry. And we hadn't even gone there. I didn't even talk about, you know, any of that. I talked about, we had a recommendation from our pediatrician who, you know, our regular pediatrician, not our homeopathic doctor, to get all this. So she had no way to think that we were, you know, crazy naturopathic people. And until I asked that question, and it changed her demeanor during the visit. You know, as a parent, you're already so like wrecked in the inside, because we were being told from these medical professionals that he was going to be crippled for life, that he was going to be disabled for life. And and when, as a parent, when you hear those words, you're like, well, that's horrifying. So what can I do to prevent that from happening? Is there anything I can do to prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
I know, as a mom, as a protector, you're going to do that. And so then that leads to research. And I can look up case studies. You know, it just because you have a medical degree or something like that doesn't mean you can't read a case study. And yeah, I might have to look up some of the vocabulary words and things like that, but I can still figure stuff out. I might have like literally a 5th grade level of math and, you know, flunked out of a bunch of stuff in school. That doesn't mean that I can't figure stuff out. The world is unlimited in knowledge. You just have to ask questions and research stuff on your own. Books, go to the library, you know.
YouTube University.
YouTube University, exactly. Find some old books on eBay on stuff and buy them and read them, you know.
Library.
I've done that. Go to the library. Yeah. They're free. Yeah. And so, you know, I was doing that and looking up all the medicines that they wanted him to take and the side effects.
Yeah.
And, you know, was it worth it? Were these potentially of him having no immune system, basically being bubble boy, Was that worth it? And if we thought it was going to be worth it, then we would have made the decisions. I would have moved us. My husband and I would have moved. We would have gotten rid of the farm. Like if we had to have different, living situations to take care of our child, we would have done that. No question. I would, to the ends of the earth, right?
Yeah.
The ends of the earth for any of our children,
yeah.
No matter what they've got, you move mountains, right? And so when I brought up the diet and the asking about stuff like that, I felt like definitely labeled into crazy naturopathic family, my hordes of children,
right?
And the relationship changed,
and that's significant. So I always say you can't assume ill intent. So maybe she didn't say that necessarily out loud, but you noticed a difference, is what I hear you saying. You noticed a difference in her demeanor towards you and how she treated you from that moment on. Once you asked about what diet and environment could be impacting this.
Yeah, because the medicine that they wanted me to give him subcutaneously was coming at a 2-year-old with a little tiny needle. And here, child, lay down and let me stick you with a needle. Like, okay, I'm being a little snarky with that. But how do you communicate that with the child? How do you get them to drink prednisolone, which tastes like it is horrible? How do you convince a child to drink something that tastes horrible? I couldn't mask it in, homemade pudding or peanut butter or yogurt or a smoothie or nothing. I mean, this stuff tastes nasty. He either threw it up or he spit it at me. And I'm trying to communicate back and forth with the doctor and their staff of ways to help me, get this into him. Methotrexate. That's it. That's the medicine. Yeah.
And naturally you're going to go, is it worth it? I mean, of course you're going to do research because you're having to go through all this with your child and all this, traumatic kind of, trying to get him to take something that he doesn't want to take. And he's 2 years old. And so of course you're probably going, okay, is it really worth it? Is this stuff really going to help? Is it, and is there side effects and all that? Absolutely. That seems very natural to me, Emelie, that you would research and question and go, because there's no one size fits all. Like we know that, right? But and you also want some assurances that what you're putting in your child is not going to be, he's going to be worse off and it's toxic either.
Right. And their response when I told them that I was having a hard time sticking him with this little needle was to send me a YouTube video on how to give him a wrestling hold that also included my husband. And I'm like what? Like, who's going to be, how much trauma do you want him to subdued, right? Or not subdued, but receive? Like, seriously, that's it? That's all you got? Like a wrestling hold? That sounds horrific when I've asked you about other things and you've discredited them. So unfortunately, that relationship didn't end well. And she broke up with us. And we had a referral to...
What do you mean broke up with you?
Explain that. So we got an email through my chart that said that I don't think that we can help you with your care. Here's another rheumatologist that works in Bellevue that I believe will help you. Like, we got broken up with. They fired us. And so that was after about 2 months. From like July, September, and then October is or September, October is when we went to Bellevue.
Okay, so let me just make sure I got this correct. So she went to this rheumatologist. Am I saying that right?
Rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah, rheumatologist.
Rheumatologist, and you did the shots. So
The
you did the
Kenalog.
shots. You tried doing the other treatments. And then after you asked the question, I just want to make sure I got this straight in my head. After you asked the question about diet and environmental factors, could they be contributing? Then she basically said, I can't treat you, or I'm breaking up with you.
Yeah. We hadn't done the biologic infusion yet. We were going to try, because that was another thing. Okay, so when you do research on children that have systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis, or JIA, all of those medicines are like throwing the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if we try one at a time? Like, is that a possibility? And that didn't even seem to be a possibility.
Yeah, because
so we were gonna try it ourselves.
Because which one is working, which one isn't,
right?
Which one's maybe causing, if there's a certain side effect. If you try 4 things at once, all at the same time, you're not going to know which one is causing a side effect.
Exactly. You get this child who has gone from literally, he's never had ibuprofen or anything like that, to all of a sudden you're going to throw all this stuff at his poor little system at 2 years of age. Like, maybe we'll try something. And don't forget, I told you that he was improving every day after the Kenalog injections. And when I kept bringing that up, that was unexplainable to them. They were like, well, it's not going to last. But they can never tell me how long it was going to last. It wasn't going to last. That's not a forever treatment. And I was like, well, could we do it once a year, once every 6 months? I mean, it wasn't that bad. And he improved so well in a positive manner. And maybe we just do that. And that wasn't acceptable.
It's so interesting. And I don't mean to rabbit trail here, but this is happening right now with my dad. And I just wanted, because this is not, a one-off. My dad is 85 years old. And I want to keep on this, Emelie, but this is so important for people to hear this. My dad is 85 years old. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer in the spring. His PSA was 10.1, and which is very high. Normal range is 4 for over 60. He's 85 years old. He's been taking the drug that they finasteride, I think. And they wanted to do radiation. And then they also wanted to go in and cut, the cancer out of his prostate. He had a Gleason score of 9. They did the MRI and stuff. And, but we've also been doing ivermectin and fenbendazole, because I've been doing all this research on it and seeing all these great cases. His PSA, we found out, just a couple weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, his PSA is 5.1 now.
Wow.
5.1 in a few months. And his urologist said, well, that's because of the drug I'm giving you. And he's like, well, how do I know, but they want to proceed with radiation. And I said, why? It's getting better. Similar.
Yeah.
It's getting better. Why would you risk the side effects and the risk with radiation if you're getting better? Like, he's almost in the normal range with his PSA. Now, I don't understand everything, but here you've got indicators, right? You think about how he's feeling, the symptoms, and you have a PSA, and you have, the blood test. So kind of a similar situation. It's all getting better. So why do you have to do all this other stuff? And we don't have those answers yet. He hasn't been able to get those answers. So anyway, get back to your story, because I'm just like, and he's frustrated. He's, and he's having side effects. He's, from this medicine that he's taking, low drive, suicidal thoughts, and he's having some issues with his eyesight, which is really frustrating. And we don't know if that's tied or not. It could be.
Yeah.
But again, back to your story, your son is improving by the one. You did the one. It's not like you
Yeah.
didn't do anything.
Yeah,
You did the
exactly.
one, and yet they're wanting to throw all this other stuff at you, and you were trying to do some of the other treatments, but
Right.
it wasn't working. So tell us kind of from there, what transpired?
So then we get to go to Bellevue, and happy, go to the ends of the earth for my child, right? Any child, doesn't matter. Okay. My husband has to take the day off work. It's 3 hours from our house. We have to have the grandparents come in and help take care of the farm and the other kids, the 4 girls that are still at home for the whole day. And we drive 3 hours there. We have an appointment with a new pediatric rheumatologist. And at the beginning of our visit, I was like, okay, this guy seems to be listening to us. His bedside manner was much more opening, or maybe not opening is the right word, gracious and understanding. And I felt like he was listening to us and where we were coming from. And he had more information about the medicines and the methotrexate, which is the one that was supposed to be subcutaneously. When I was telling him about the nightmare that was to try to give to our son, he said, well, why don't you just squirt it in some pudding? You can draw it out with the needle, the dosage, and squirt it into pudding. You don't have to give that to him subcutaneously. He could eat it. And I was quite shocked. And I said, oh, well, maybe you should tell the other rheumatologist to tell her patients that. Would have been useful information. But of course, he still wanted us to do those 3 things: the biologic infusion every 2 weeks, the prednisolone, and the methotrexate. Actemra is the biologic medicine.
How do you spell that?
It starts with an A. I have a
Actemra. Okay, that's fine.
Says bad spellers of the world.
That's okay.
Untie. So
I've heard some. I know they can help a lot of people, but I also have heard some. I have a very close person in my life that has rheumatoid arthritis, and they wanted to give them a biologic, and our mainstream doctor was like, "This causes cancer. It might help you, but man, I really don't."
Actemra is pretty nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And so we saw him in September. And so that was September of 2024. On our first trip to Bellevue. Yeah. And so we left, and he reiterated he's going to be crippled for life. He is going to be disabled. Like, he still was throwing those really scary words at us. And in his examination with him, of course, is very, very fast. Doctors don't really spend very much time with you. And we just drove 3 hours. This, wiggly 2-year-old just sat in a car for 3 hours, then in a waiting room, trying to get out his wiggles. And you're a new stranger. And he didn't quite, participate as well as he might have been if we'd had more time or if he'd met him before, which I acknowledge that. You can't expect a kid to, he's 2, right?
Yeah.
And so we did leave feeling a little bit better about the Actemra. Like, okay, if, part of it was explained a little bit better, and maybe there are not going to be any side effects. There shouldn't be. It's through an infusion, so you just come once, and it's not a daily thing, and there really shouldn't be that many side effects to it. And so we were feeling a little bit better about just doing that rather than the other things. Of course, he still wanted us to do them. And, but we were hesitant to do all 3. And plus, we couldn't get the prednisolone. I could not, the taste of that is horrible. Oh, and I also talked to every single compounding pharmacist in this area. And they all told me there's nothing we can do. We can't make it into a grape flavored sucker. Like there's nothing. It's just the way that it is. And it's why it doesn't really go to small children. Because you can, an older child, you can be like, hold your nose and,
this is going to help you, really.
help you, spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? And so in the beginning of October of 2024, I took Quintus to one infusion, one biologic medicine infusion appointment. And, that was a nightmare because not only did they do the biologic infusion, but since he had not had any of the oral steroid, they wanted to give him that. And right before, so the whole thing took 5 hours, which was exhausting. And you're in this little tiny hospital room. And Quintus had roid rage. He'd never had the steroid before.
Wow.
And in fact, the volume, the amount that they wanted to give him, the infusion nurse questioned it. And she made the decision to call the doctor and tell the doctor she wasn't going to give him as much as they prescribed. She had a 2-year-old and was like, I wouldn't give my kid this much. Let's tone it down. And she made that call, and I really thank her quite a bit. And so we didn't give him the full, amount that the doctor wanted. And he raged out. He was 9 on the IV line, like he was going insane. We had to keep him on the bed because he had a IV line, right? And he was like moving all around and just like at one point. And I also had a hard time communicating with the staff because I couldn't find the button. And nobody checked on us during this time. And we could see them walking by. And if it had been like a full-blown emergency, I would have been bellowing to the, hi Hades, I would have pulled something or whatever. But nobody did check on to us until it was all done, till the machine started beeping. And I have a picture of him when he was coming down off of that medicine. And he is laying on the end of the bed, and he had this toy car, and he was gnawing on it like a dog, and he was just like this weird pose. It was really awful. They had this lovely dog come around to help, because we were in the pediatric unit, and they had this dog, and Quintus my son didn't want to pet the dog. And I'm like, you're here for me, puppy. Ooh, I want to hold you.
It's so hard to see your son, to see your child go through that.
Yeah.
That's horrific.
And so we left that appointment. It was the beginning of October 2025. And
24.
24. Yeah. And thinking, okay, like we did that, that was horrific. Let's see what his lab work is going to improve a whole bunch. Should we continue that, do that again? Could I leave the fact that it was a horrific appointment and take those things away that if it had gone smoother, would have been okay? And, to try to look at it logically and take the emotion of the mom heart and all of that out of it. Like, it's medicine.
Yeah, but it's inhumane. I mean, it is completely inhumane to expect you and your son to go through this for 5 hours and then he's got to have the steroid injection too, so I mean, like it's horrific. And
every 2 weeks go through this IV thing, and it disrupts, the whole family.
Yeah, because it's not easy for you to leave your family and your farm. There's things that have to be taken care of. But like you said, you'll move mountains for your children, right?
Could you get them to come to the house? They do, other kind of care, Could an infusion nurse come to the house or whatever? You know, we would have, if we thought it was necessary, done that kind of research.
Were you doing the infusions here in Spokane, or were you having to go all the way to Bellevue to get that done?
In Spokane.
Okay. So at least
the peds oncology unit. Yeah.
Wow.
And so then we went back to have a follow-up appointment to Bellevue, and that was in November. And so a month after he had had that one biologic infusion. And after that appointment, of course, I'm talking to the nurse about things to look for any kind of side effects, you know, with just anything, because it was on a Friday. So of course we had that weekend, you know, here's a gamut of things to look at and to come into the ER or whatever. I wanted a lot of that information so I could really keep an eye on him. And fortunately, the only thing he had was a runny nose. She said that was really common, cold, kind of minor cold symptoms. And so he got stuffy and had a little bit of a runny nose over the weekend and was fine. Praise be to God. Yeah. And so we went to Bellevue again at the beginning of November of 2024 for a follow-up appointment. And between the October visit and the November visit, we didn't have any lab work after that visit. Like, they did his labs before they gave him the medicine, but there wasn't labs after that until this November visit.
Okay.
And with the assumption, because this happened last time, that we would do lab work at the Bellevue clinic because they have a lab there. And so when we walked into this appointment, it's the same thing, 3-hour drive, right? Waiting room, you know, then we see the doctor. And within a couple of minutes of him finding out that we had only had one infusion, that we were supposed to have at least 2 by the time he was going to see Quintus again, his demeanor, his bedside manner, it was like Jekyll and Hyde. You could see, like, outwardly, he was really mad at us. And I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. You know, he was pretty jovial and happy and, you know, nice the first time, and now he's not nice. So at first, my personality is, okay, he's having a bad day. You know, something happened. Let's just let this go. I'm not one to raise a stink right away without good reason. And I can keep my temper in check most of the time. And this was a time that I could. You know, we drove all this way. Let's respect this guy and his time. We'll just continue this appointment. I'm going to take a mental note of how upset he is at us. Let's continue this appointment. So one of the things that he wanted to do was examine Quintus with his mobility and his flexibility. And so, you know, you're in a little tiny room and then there's a hallway and you go out in the hallway, and he wanted Quintus to take his hands like this and flat, put them on a wall in the hallway to see the mobility of this in Quintus. And Quintus wanted nothing to do with that. I mean, he'd been in a car. He was squirrely. He could probably sense that, you know, this doctor wasn't as nice. It was the first time. It was a different nurse. And we didn't have the child life specialist with all the blinking, you know, distraction toys that they, you know, wonderful that they offer that. We didn't have that this time. So there was a lot of different things about the appointment. And kids are smart. They pick up on, you know, social cues and, you know, things like that. And, or not social cues, but, you know, feeling the room.
Yeah. Different energies. Yeah.
Energy. Yeah. And so he didn't want to play his game. And he got mad that Quintus wouldn't do that. The doctor did. And I was like, oh, great.
Now, Quintus is a 3-year-old, right? At this time?
Yeah. No, he's 2, almost 2.5. Yeah. Yeah. And so we go back into the exam room and he's sitting on my lap to try to to do the physical exam. And, you know, Quinny's not really doing it. And he gets upset again and is flustered. And then he's like, well, why didn't you do the infusion again? And I said, well, nobody followed up from us. Nobody from the infusion center followed up from us. Your office didn't follow up from us. You know, nobody when we left said, hey, do you want to book your second appointment? Nobody from the Spokane rheumatologist office followed up. And he gave the impression that it was my responsibility. I was supposed to be calling the infusion place to make the second appointment. So miscommunication. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't do that. And the physician kind of throws a wee bit of a fit in the room and calls up the infusion, actually calls up the Spokane rheumatologist's office to complain to them of why we didn't have it. So then that is a discussion on speakerphone, and he's upset, they're upset. And then like I'm there and they're all blaming me and it's my fault. And that was an interesting, you know, conversation. And we asked to do, we asked to do lab work. Like we did last time, like, let's do lab work, check his lab work if we really need to do this again. And by now, my very, very long fused husband who's at all these appointments is visually showing signs of tension. Sorry.
You're all right.
And so we're getting ready to leave, and we asked him about the lab work, and he's all like, no, just do it back when, you know, you get back to Spokane. And because he was really, really wound up and upset at us. So we're like, okay.
So he has no new data. He has zero new data.
No new data. He's just mad at us that we hadn't done what we were supposed to be doing. And it felt like it was a waste of his time, this appointment. And Quintus wasn't, you know, listening to him and doing what he wanted. And so he didn't get to do what he wanted to do or whatever. He was all out of joint and he was upset. So we came home and drove 3 hours back home. And my husband and I communicated and had a nice long decompression discussion about what we were going through. I mean, we just talked it, hashed it out the way husband and wives lovingly do. I mean, no anger or anything, just very logical, talking about this, taking all the emotion, taking all of his body language, the doctor's body language, taking all of that out and just like, here are the facts. Here's, you know, the lab work, things like that, the kind of identifiers of the progression of Quintus's health. Is this really worth it? That was the question that we were trying to come. Seeing this rheumatologist again, is this really worth it? And after our long discussion, we had determined that it was no longer worth it. His lab work was improving. We can get lab work done with our pediatrician, with our naturopath. We can get lab work done. If that's all that they're going off of, and some crummy, you know, physical exam that Quintus didn't do, then we could like do that on our own. We don't need to do this anymore. He doesn't have any additional information for us. We didn't do the treatments that he wanted to, and he's upset about that. And why would we see him again? Why would we go through this? Why would we be treated like this again? You know, this whole thing, it disrupts the whole family. We're just politely done. And we're going to see if we can find a more naturopathic rheumatologist. Is there such a thing? I don't know. Let's Google it, you know, let's talk to our network of people, and maybe there's a more crunchy rheumatologist out there that has a different opinion and some more information, and let's just pick somebody else's brain. There's got to be another way to skin the cat, as my grandma would say, right? And so we decided we were going to politely end our relationship with the doctor in Bellevue. And so that evening, I wrote up a very polite email through my chart saying, we are no longer going to see you. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Done with you. I canceled the appointments that we had preset. There was like one in January or December or whatever, another one in March or whatever. Because we had to go over the pass. So we didn't want to do that in the winter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we got an email in return asking who we were going to see. And I found that as odd. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what do you care who we're going to see? We're not going to see you. Take us off your schedule. Thank you for your time, peace out. Like, why do we have to explain ourselves? I didn't understand why we felt like we had to do that. And so I talked with our naturopath, and we found more of a naturopathic doctor, also on the west side of Washington. And so we were going to look into that, check her out and see if she, was available, another avenue.
Right.
So we sent that information along with the rheumatologist. And he, of course, his staff looked her up and saw that she was more naturopathic, and she wasn't a pediatric rheumatologist. She had quite an extensive background in that field, but she wasn't that specific title. And we said, yes, we know this. Thank you, Mr. Obvious. Like, I didn't say that. I was very polite in my emails. And thought none the wiser. Okay, we've broken up, cleared the ties, paid our bill. Like, we're done with you people. We're going to leave it at that. So that was about the beginning of November 2nd, first week of November of 2024. Then about 2 weeks later, the day before Thanksgiving, we get a call from Child Protective Services. In 1 hour, a caseworker is going to come to the house and interview us, that we have been reported as medical negligent parents, that we are not taking care of our son as we should, per the state of Washington, and that we need to be investigated. What? What? Like, at first, the rebel in me is just like, oh, the government's coming. Like, you can't tell me what to do. It's my kid. Like, I was audibly, a little upset about that. And then I'm thinking, it's the day before Thanksgiving. Like, are you kidding me? And then, of course, I'm thinking, I need to clean the toilet. Like, what's she going to look at? Like,
what are they going to judge you on? Yeah.
We have chores, like we have like the kids, like what do I have to prepare? Like, do I have to let them in? Should I let them in? Do I have to? You don't really have to. You don't right. have to. But right. Does that look bad if you don't? Could I let the dogs out and tell her to get off our property, be all hillbilly or whatever. And in an hour. Right. That was our warning or whatever.
So nobody contacted you and had a conversation and asked you. It was just boom, they're coming and you're being investigated.
3:30 on a Wednesday afternoon,
the day before
Thanksgiving, we're coming. Okay. The British is coming.
Talk about inhumane again.
Right.
Inhumane. Like this is,
So we, I clean toilets. I mean, I don't know what she's going to look at, I don't know, but I did get a little insecure about that. And I'm like, golly gee, maybe we are are we? The devil gets in when fear gets in and fear takes over. And you just start to think of, well, do they know what's better? Like, it's supposed to be authority, and we're doing our very best, and maybe our best isn't good enough. All these insecurities come out for that moment, that hour of me cleaning toilets and vacuuming and putting dirty dishes in the oven, and just the things. Where are they going to go? Like, the whole house? Like, are they going to see the closet? Like, the garage? Now what are they going to do with the dogs?
And it's again, what am I going to get judged on?
Right. Yeah.
Are they going to, what's their checklist?
Yeah, exactly. Are they going to be judging the toilet bowl scum? Is basically my level of, oh dear. And then what do we tell the kids? Like, hey kids, this lady's coming to house because somebody thinks that we're bad parents. Like, what do you tell your children? And you don't have time to prepare or think. The first thing I did is, after I received the phone call, I said, okay, we'll see you in an hour. Thank you very much. Hung up the phone. The first thing I did was call our priest. And I said, please pray for us. I don't know what's going on, but we need some prayers today. And then I sent a message out to our prayer group, and we got some drama going on, and I can't tell you anything right now, but please just pray for our family tonight. And happy Thanksgiving tomorrow, like everyone. That's the first thing we did. And then we tried to do some cleaning, not a whole bunch, vacuum, swept, whatever. And the kids were outside doing chores, and little minor research of if we had to let them in. So we did contact some friends that we have that are lawyers and police officers, just getting some opinions from people through, community. And some people said to let them in. Some people said not to. Some people said if you don't, it might make it worse. But some people were like,
they might
you're right.
make it worse.
Yeah. So, and some people were like, don't let them in. Don't let them come down the driveway. Like, a little more hostile than I was. I mean, inwardly, my rebel is like, yeah, meet them at the end of the road. Thou shalt not enter my property. But I was like, let's try to take this calm, cool, and collected and see, kind of methodically see how this goes. Lady came, she gets out of her car. The feral farm children are out getting eggs, running around, because it's starting to get dark in November here in Pacific Northwest at 5:00 at night. I mean, she's got a family too. Let's celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow. So I kind of felt bad for this lady too, had come all the way out here. So she gets out of the car, introduces herself, shake hands, hear the kids, and then she asks if she can come in. And she wants to tell us why she is here. Well, it's cold, it's dark, and of course I'm going to let her in because it's cold and it's dark, and I didn't have a coat. I mean, we were just all running around. And so we let her in. And we stood basically in our dining room for over an hour while she explained why she was there. She couldn't tell us who reported us, but I mean, it was not medical negligence, was kind of like, oh, okay. And now they're involved. Here's what we can do moving forward. And we now have an open case. And we basically have to prove to her that we are not bad parents. So after about the 90 minutes, hour and a half that she was at our home, the interesting thing she said at the end was, I can't find anything wrong. you did the treatments. You went to the appointments. You have the lab work. You didn't just not show up to things. Like, you were doing the things, because I could do the timeline right to her. And we had just gotten back like less than 2 weeks from another thing to Bellevue. I'm like, we were still going to the appointments. We were still politely going to the appointments. We never were disrespectful to them in any appointment, in any email. My conscience is different. Why go to confession? Thank goodness for that. But, you know, we were always respectful. Even if we disagreed, we were respectful. And she said that. And maybe she shouldn't have said that, but she did. And so I was like, okay, well, this like case closed. Like, happy Thanksgiving. You know, we never need to see you again. No, it wasn't that. The case wasn't closed until the end of February of 2025. So we went through December, January, February, and half of November-ish, about 3.5 months of keeping this lady up to date of when appointments were happening and lab work that we were getting done with our naturopath and appointments and things like that. And so after Thanksgiving, that Monday, actually I started that weekend of Thanksgiving. I went to our community, and any single person I knew who was in law enforcement or family lawyer or any kind of lawyer, we need a lawyer. That I just knew that we needed that. So we got a lawyer. And if you've never, and we had never experienced anything like this in our family, lawyers are expensive. And there went Christmas. I mean, you have to spend a couple $1,000s as a retainer for a lawyer. And we're not, money isn't coming from the sky. So that was rough. That was rough to be able to put that burden on our family of, okay, but this is what we got to do. It's important. And so we did it. And so she came out. So we were mostly communication through email and phone messages. And she came out. We had another visit. It wasn't until after the new year, because she had to go through all of the documentation from all of the doctors. She had to go through all of that. So that took a while to get all those medical records. And plus, then you add in Christmas and New Year's. So everyone's checked out. It's the end of the year. So none of that really got done until we had an interview. She said that she wanted to interview the children. And I was like, I kind of laughed. I actually really did laugh at her. I was like, what? Like, what are you going to get out of at that time, a 2-year-old, 4-year-old, like, what? How are you seriously? You're going to interview all 5 of the children? Yes, all 5 of the children. Okay, well, what kind of questions are you going to ask? Because I want to know that. There's a set of vocabulary words that are very mainstream that our children aren't exposed to. And are you going to ask about stuff like that?
Man,
what can you possibly ask them? And can I be there? Because no, I can't. Okay. And so, of course, she's not going to tell us the questions, and we can't be there. Well, I'm glad we have a lawyer because he's going to be there. So we set that appointment for Valentine's Day, and we went down to the lawyer's office. And it being Valentine's Day, of course, we made like homemade brownies, and we brought them to try to, make it a jovial experience for the kids. That she's just going to ask you some questions. You'll be with the lawyer. You're going to have a brookie we made a cookie with a brownie, treats, and here's some, we can bring some toys and play, and, tried to make it low key as possible for them. And we showed up and she was late. And it wasn't the first time she was late to things. And that was a difficult one for me, because, take the time off of work and all this stuff, and I can get to this office and be 5 to 10 minutes early with my 5 children, downtown Spokane, valley parking, like the whole deal, and you're 20 minutes late and your office is downtown. Okay, so check the the attitude, but again, we were respectful, we were kind, we were cared about this woman. My children and I have been praying for her. We've always been praying for this lady. Found out she has a young child, and you just they're people too. It's not her. This isn't all her. She reports to somebody.
Yep.
And so we had the interview. It was very, very short. We spent more time chit-chatting with our lawyer and hanging out and just visiting than the actual interview went. Thank God. It really.
But you weren't allowed to be in the room when she talked to your
children. No, we were. That got changed. And so we were all just sitting around in a big conference room, like one of those tables with like 15 chairs around it, and the spinny chairs. So you can imagine.
The kids were.
Yeah. Crumbs all over the place.
And you wonder how much of that was changed because you had an attorney present.
Yeah. There is a bit of posturing that you do of, playing the game, and, we've got a lawyer, and, we're going to do this and, protect ourselves and our family, because that's what you do. And totally unknown. And, we had talked to some friends of ours who are in the career of social workers and got other people's opinion. And lots of other people's opinion said that the case would have been dropped like right away after that first initial interview, when we had told them that all the things that we had done and were following what they recommended to a certain degree, that it should have been case closed. And so it makes you wonder, and this is 1000% my opinion, speculation of, well, did the pediatric rheumatologist in Bellevue lie? I mean, maybe he fabricated some things.
Or maybe he just spelled out the picture in a way that
he really left some details out, and then it was flagged. And then you start wondering, and you start thinking, and you start asking questions. And then you find out through your Googling and reading of articles that the Child Protective Services Department reports to the state attorney directly. So then you wonder, well, why does that happen? And what's the connection? What does a state attorney's office, why is there a connection with that? And what is the benefit?
So, okay. So let's, I got to understand this. So the AG's office, the state attorney general's office, has oversight of CPS?
The CPS reports to them directly.
I'm pretty sure they report to the Health and Human Services. They Department of Health. That's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of I'll think of it. Okay. But they probably have, I don't know that the AG's office would have oversight. I think it's the
right, maybe not oversight,
but every agency will have an attorney that is assigned to their agency, because we had that on the State Board of Education.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about that interconnection though.
So you just kind of wonder, like, you know, if the child protective services in a state is reporting to the Department of Health and Services, right? Which is reporting to the Attorney General office. Well, then who's in charge? You wonder who is in charge of that connection, and if it really is, if the assumption, the connection of one very well known, I have looked up the pediatrician, the rheumatoid arthritis doctor that we were seeing in Bellevue. I have scoured his internet usage, or what's on the internet from him, and his reports and his case studies that he's done, and his teaching at a major university in our state, and his reputation. Well, what would he, if anything, does he have to gain from sending CPS after some country bumpkins in Eastern Washington? You just
and again, that's speculation, right? You don't have any evidence of proof.
1,000% speculation.
Do you happen to look up the PDC information of donations at all? Did you happen?
I have to a little bit.
Okay. Did you find anything?
Not really.
Not directly. Okay.
Yeah. I was hoping to see some picture of maybe, that pediatrician, that rheumatologist at some function, where there's a fundraiser or whatever for some political candidate.
And how did that connection come up? Like, why did you become aware of that connection?
I just am a curious person.
Okay.
And I just asked questions and wanted to know where this information was going. What is CPS? Really, who do they report to, and who's their boss? And
and we have a mutual friend that
just being curious.
Worked in the Department of or Social Services here locally. I don't know that she works there anymore. But so the Child Protective Services is under the umbrella of DCYF. So that's the Department of Youth and Children, Department of Children, Youth and Families. It's an agency that was created. When was that created? Back in probably at least like 12 years ago, as kind of an umbrella, and the legislation has put a bunch of things in that. But again, because it's a state agency, they're also going to have the Attorney General's office that they're going to continue to work with. I don't know that the Attorney General's office actually has the oversight, but like you said, the reports could be going, there's probably certain reports, and where that information goes. Yeah, it's very interesting. But and Emelie, this is fascinating and horrific to me at the same time. And unfortunately, you are not the only case I have heard of locally. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing about similar situations all across the country. I've heard about situations right here in Spokane because they wouldn't get their child vaccinated or their brand new baby. I've heard of other parents having issues like this that seem completely unqualified, if you will, and I get that I know some very good people that work for Child Protective Services, and I wish, I could get them to talk as well, get them on here to maybe hear the other side of it. I'm sure there's some real honest cases where children are in harm's way, truly in harm's way. But this seems such a far reach when you're doing all these things, and it does make you wonder, like, is it because you didn't get vaccinated? Your kids didn't get vaccinated? Is it because you live on a farm? Is it because you're doing a very natural, not anti big pharma, but kind of, right? And you're digging and you're
Questioning.
asking
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, you're investigating and you're making decisions for yourself. Like, and all of the questioning that comes along with that too. And I've walked a little bit in your shoes with having a son with autism, and finding out, when he stopped talking was the MMR, and starting to look at research and go, oh my gosh, there is a connection here, and starting to question that. And then you feel like everybody is questioning you. You feel,
Right.
and then you're like, oh my gosh, am I a bad mom? And you're trying to do what's right for your child. And we live in an information war. Like a lot of this stuff I've been talking about with my dad right now, and he's so frustrated. He's confused, because they're telling him one thing, but it's not making sense. And then I'm giving him other information to consider. It is his life. And we're doing the research together. And he's so frustrated because the medical community, won't listen, won't acknowledge, won't acknowledge there might be another way, through, like what the questions you asked, through diet, through health, through environmental factors. And then you get a child protective service investigation because you dared to question or, seek another route of treatment for your son.
Because that was the one word that CPS was throwing around all the time was treatment plan. That we weren't following any kind of treatment plan. And well, yes, we were following their treatment plan, just not to the T that they wanted us to.
So is that the qualifying factor for CPS, that if you don't follow a treatment plan for your dependent, for your child, does that trigger an investigation?
Yes, that the state has deemed that this is the treatment plan. And right at this time of October, that time frame, we were following a treatment plan from our naturopathic doctor. So remember I said that we didn't get that lab work done in that November?
Yeah.
Yes. We didn't get that lab work done with the rheumatologist. We got the lab work done with our naturopathic doctor in October. And so we followed the treatment plan from our naturopathic doctor, which was dietary concerns and anti-inflammatory foods, and making sure that he had a really good pre and a probiotic. Your gut health is like 70% of your immune system. And our son could still be having some kind of visual or residual effects from that infusion that he had. And so we were trying to protect and build up his immune system, because the Temra just, shot it up. And so we were following a treatment plan, and with supplements and things like that, and diet. And he had lab work done in October, and then he had lab work done in November, and it got better. And by the end of December, in 2 months, with this treatment plan from our naturopathic doctor, and with pre and probiotic supplements and a thing called golden milk, which you can look that up. It's like a bunch of black pepper and turmeric and cinnamon and things, and then you just mix it with warm milk, and naturopathic remedies. He went in 2 months. By the end of December, he had zero inflammation. And we were sending all this information to CPS as well. So all of and so we could say at the end of December that he went from having been diagnosed with systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. He was in remission at the end of December of 2024.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so you saw the biomarkers, I'm guessing lab work, blood tests or whatever. What did you see with him physically? How did that change?
He went feral. He went from
You mean that in the
running.
best way possible.
Yes. Oh, feral farm kid. He went to running, riding a bicycle, like the limited mobility that he had at the beginning and the slow Quinny shuffle that I talked about is non-existent. I just posted a video of our PE, physical education at homeschooling, where we took the goats for a walk and they're all running around with our goat herd. And there's Quinny just running, and he rides a bike and he does all these things that you would never know. And he is tall and he's strong, and he turned 3 this last May. And I mean, his great grandfather was like 6'7" or something like that. And his dad is tall. My husband is tall. And, he's a big, strong farm boy.
Yeah, that is awesome. So all these things that the doctors had told you, that he was going to be disabled, that he's going to be paralyzed or not be able to walk,
yep,
crippled.
Mm-hmm.
Here he is, the exact opposite.
Yeah, you'd never know.
No. And, good for you for sticking to your gut. We know as parents, we know what our children need, like instinctively. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of our modern world, and unfortunately, modern medicine world has taken that away from us, or tried to take that away from us, and tried to get us to not trust ourselves. Same as the education system. Like we inherently have that to do what's best for our children on 99% of the cases, right?
Yeah,
maybe there's some bad apples out there, but most of the time you're going to have parents that are going to do everything they can, but they don't, same thing. I don't agree with most of the time now, the modern medical treatment plan. And it's always treatment. It's not a healing plan. It's a treatment plan. I bless those doctors out there. I know there's so many good people, but they are part of a medical industrial complex, and their hands are tied. Their licenses and their livelihoods are tied to this system that they have to adhere to, that they can't question. They can't look at alternative therapies. They can't look at gut health, I guess, and which is crazy. They can't look at ivermectin and fenbendazole as these opportunities that people are kicking cancer's butt and overcoming. I mean, anyway, I get fired up, Emelie, because this is something I'm very, very passionate about.
The power of nutrition. It all circles around to us in our farm and raising the food that we eat, and knowing how it's raised, where it comes from, what's in it. What's not in it.
What's not in it.
It's doable in this. Yeah, of course, the sourdough bread and all of that. And it's doable. We are a 1-income family with 5 children. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Yes, I've got 2 network marketing side hustles. And always extra, thinking beyond of the box. If I could just inspire somebody out there, one other person, to just dream that life is attainable by asking questions and taking control of your decisions and following God's, roadmap for your life. And that it's doable, and you can heal yourself through nutrition and through supplements and through vitamins and, different choices.
Yeah. Rheumatoid arthritis is not normally something that people think you ever heal from. No. I mean, it's kind of like a life sentence, right? And so that you've been able to completely eradicate this from your son's health is amazing. I mean, that shows so much hope right there. That should give so many people hope right there. And Emelie, while I'm thinking about it, how could people get a hold of you too if they have questions for you, maybe about things that you've done or maybe about homesteading? Do you have
Sure. Yeah. So our homestead Facebook page is public. It's Country Roads Homestead LLC, and the Roads is spelled RHOADS.
RHODES?
RHOADS.
OADS.
Yeah. It's a family name.
Okay.
And
So
the John Denver song is special to our family. So Country Roads Homestead LLC. So you can message me on there. My personal Facebook page is pretty private. And but we have a farm public Facebook page that I'm happy to take messages on there.
Okay, and I will tag that in under this video once we get done here today, so people have a way to reach out to you. So yeah, Country Roads, that's awesome. John Denver song. That's funny. That just came up the other day. I follow an account on X that is a John Denver parody account, and shares tons of information about, ivermectin, fenbendazole, health. And I think he or she reposted this video today. So that's an interesting sync. So I want to talk to you, and I know, we've been going a little bit, but I want to just ask you just a little bit more, because you talked about your faith, and I think that is so important. I know for me, Emelie, and we've shared this before together, but I wouldn't be here without my faith and my walk with God and the discernment that God has given me, with my children, with their health, with my life, and the crazy roads that it has taken that I would have never imagined. I don't know, people don't know this. I was a golf professional teacher. God had other things in store for me. And I'm sure he still does. And now I'm, doing this and getting to listen to amazing stories like yours. But that discernment that God gives you for your children and for your life, I mean, I really do look at a lot of our system right now, and I see us kind of as a whole, like being slaves to this, work 2 jobs, send your kids off to an institution where you're going to get educated. They're hopefully going to get educated, but there's a lot of indoctrination happening. And I have a lot of great people that are in education that I think are wonderful people, and it's not their fault, right? But it's the system. It's same with the medical system, and you're beholding, I mean, the drugs that they want to put you on. And I just did some research for my dad. I was looking at, because his eyesight's been so bad, and looked into Dr. Artis and this cataracts.
Oh.
And the one video shows 70 known prescription drugs that cause cataracts.
And have you looked into castor oil?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My dad's got castor oil. I got castor oil. Yep. And then 70, in addition, 70 possibly likely. So that means very likely. And I mean, they've done research on this. So here, a vast amount of people are taking these drugs with the side effect of cataracts. I mean, the research is showing that. And so it's just, we've got to do our research, and we are in an information war, and you're not going to hear the truth from your mainstream media because they are paid for by Big Pharma. They're all in cahoots together. I'm sorry to tell you this, but that's why it's so important that we get people like Emelie, like you on here, and tell your story. And here you have a real case scenario of what you've gone through to help heal your son. What other things do you guys do? So you make your own bread.
Yep. I make my own bread, and I also support a friend of mine who has a micro bakery. I'm a very entrepreneur supporter. Yes. Like I said, I have 2 network marketing businesses. Um, but because being a stay-at-home mom, it just doesn't make you like not provide any income to your family. I read a statistic said that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So, okay, cool. I'll work on that. But our farm, we mainly just do eggs right now because the meat bird season is over for the summer. Of course, it's coming up with Thanksgiving. And so we do provide turkeys. All of ours are spoken for this season. But, as we grow and develop our systems, we'll be able to offer more things to our community. We're getting ready to kind of batten down the hatches for winter. And so we will be thinning our geese and our duck flocks. So if you'd like a Christmas goose, they're very tasty. And we also sell meat rabbits. And that's a whole nother thing of our farm is not certified by the USDA. And so please eat things from our farm at your own risk.
Well, and that's
make sure to say that.
Yeah. And that's another unfortunate thing is we've seen these farms attacked by USDA, and it's like everything natural is being attacked, right? Everything natural, everything that's truly good for you is getting attacked right now. And it takes people. Please support Emelie Country Roads Homestead LLC.
Yeah. Support your local farm. I mean, support your community. They're all over.
Because it is a bit of a hardship because you have, and again, like, is that why you were targeted? Is that, I mean, it's hard to know. You can only speculate at this point. You don't have evidence, but somehow somebody turned you in. And you don't know, it's happened to other farms and homesteaders and people that try to do good by their community by raising wholesome foods or raw milk. Or we've seen numerous cases like this across the country. So
yeah, well, it's such a spiritual battle going on. I mean, this really is really all about the devil. I mean, I truly believe that he is the enemy of everything truthful, beautiful, and goodness and good. And you do something that's different, he's just out there. I've done so much of probably majority of my life without a very hard or strong faith. And life is so much easier when you have faith, and it doesn't make life easier.
No,
it doesn't. It makes being able to go through the hard things easier.
Yes.
Because you have a support system that is, unlimited in its power. And, the prayer has been a hot topic recently with the Catholic school shooting in Minneapolis. And wow, why would people attack prayer? If it wasn't that big of a deal, why would people attack it?
Yeah.
Riddle me that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very powerful thing. And I agree with you, Emelie. And, I've seen that so much in my life, and standing on scriptures like, God promises to work all things together for our good, for those that love the Lord. He worked this together for your good. He's working. Mm-hmm. He didn't cause this. He didn't cause this on your son. He didn't, put a sickness on him. Same with my son. He didn't cause him.
No.
There is a lot of evil in our world, but my goodness, God has worked it all together for our good. Because of my son, I questioned the vaccines right from the get-go. We all did, or my family did, because we knew we have the evidence. Preston was diagnosed when he was 5. He stopped talking after the MMR, but he, there was so much going on at 18 months that I didn't know that, I didn't connect those dots. And not until he was diagnosed when he was 5 did I start digging and researching and really trying to figure out what the heck happened. And we shortly after that had him tested and a toxicity test, and he was off the charts toxic in 12 metals.
Oh my God.
Number 1 being mercury. Number 2 being aluminum, and then on down the list. And I was like, what? And I then found out this is what's in these vaccines. And the side effects of mercury poisoning are actually speech impediments, which my son had. And it's, a lot of kids with autism have. So, because of that happening, I learned to not, I had asked the doctors, I had a mom come up to me and say, you're not going to vaccinate your boys, right? I have 2 boys that are about 18 months apart. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, there's a link with autism. I tried to research it then. I tried to ask my doctor and they poo-pooed it. Mm-hmm. And so we went ahead and they're like, oh, well, then everybody would have autism. I didn't know enough then. And of course it's hard because I feel like, if I would have stuck to my guns, what would have happened? But because of that, I did question stuff. And I did, when these vaccines, the COVID vaccine jab, whatever you want to call it, came around, I'm like, this is not this is not for us,
No, yeah. Well, I talked about my background in corporate healthcare, and why is it when it comes down for flu season, and as a staff member, if you don't get the flu shot, you have to walk around campus with a mask. And I had to do that. And why didn't I get the flu? And why that in one of the positions in the hospital I had, you have to be fit tested for an N95 mask to make sure it seals correctly. Why am I seeing every, just the average person walking around during COVID with an N95 mask? Do they get fit tested for that? Is it working correctly the way it was supposed to from the manufacturer? Like it just didn't make any sense to me during COVID. And it's not just because I'm a conspiracy theorist or I'm a rebel or, this and that. It's just asking the logical questions and taking the emotion out of things and looking it up and coming to a conclusion. I mean, my 4th grader is learning about the the scientific theory and how to do experiments and things like that. That's all it is. It's
and you take evidence from that. That was the thing. I mean, I pretty much I don't even know the term for it, but I got passed over very quickly to become chair of the State Board of Education when I didn't get vaccinated. And I know that. I know that in my heart, and I saw evidence of that very clearly. And yet it's like, okay, there was, 97.5% of people are fine. They're fine. The mortality rate was, if I remember right, was less than 3%. And I love my board members. They're great people. And I had conversations with them and they're like, MJ, why wouldn't you just you get it? You don't have to have your son get it. I'm like, no, like this doesn't add up. We don't know what, nobody knows what's in these things yet. I've been told there's fetal, aborted tissue in it. There's a lot of evidence for that. There's all this, there's so many things that go against my beliefs and what I know is good for us as humans, let alone, what else could be in there, right? And what it's going to do. So, it's just like you said, to trust yourself to ask those questions and to not back down, because people will try to make you feel like you're crazy.
Yeah, and I'm willing to lose a connection with a family member. I am willing to lose a friendship over something like this because it's happened. And it's like, that I am not going to risk the health and safety of my family over a relationship.
Yeah.
Even if it's, somebody who I hold dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I've known my whole life. My family comes first. I mean, God first, family second.
And I honor people's
Right.
choice. I really do. Like, you get
Yeah,
to
exactly. You do you, I do me, and there could be a difference and we can still be friends.
Yeah.
We could still be family. We could
but
still have a difference and still have a community.
Yeah. And let's talk about the evidence. Let's talk about what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what's working for me. Is that just because that doesn't fit a narrative, does that not mean it's valued? That hypothesis, that scientific method, I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, maybe you have something else that, information that I could use, and I could share my information and think of what the world would be impacted by a sharing of knowledge and information.
Yeah. Yeah. And facts. Right. And we all do have different predispositions, genetic predispositions. I do believe that.
Right.
And that's why not everybody has the same things. I mean, doctors know, like, sometimes you prescribed a certain medicine to somebody and sometimes you got to change the medicine. I mean, because it doesn't work the same. We're not cookie cutters.
Yeah.
So, wow, Emelie, I really appreciate you telling your story. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with the community that maybe you haven't? Is there anything else that you want to make sure you get across?
Basically just ask questions and, get involved. There is a show like the kids used to watch before it kind of took a negative turn into wokeland. It was called Peppa's Pig, or Peppa. I think it's Peppa's something. Peppa the Pig. I think that's what it's called. And there's a character on that show called Mrs. Rabbit. And Mrs. Rabbit had many hats. She was a librarian. She drove the train. She opened the ice cream parlor, or, whatever. She was a librarian. Like, she, did all these things. And so my husband calls me Mrs. Rabbit because I'm involved in all these things. And with my community, with our faith community, with the community that we live in, get to know your local politicians, get to know your school board members. I recently became a PCO for our district, and just so I could get involved and ask questions and get to know people that are making rules and regulations to where we live. And we don't all agree on stuff, but we can have a community and talk things over. And, it's just all about, I'm such a huge person of networking and community and connections. And because you never know when you could meet someone at some random event or a meeting, and they're, husband's looking for a job, and you're like, oh, but I know this one who's hiring, and bless a family with that connection just to get to know somebody.
Or have, different knowledge, or just like what happened with your son, the knowledge that you've gained and the experience that you could share about what worked for him. You don't know how that's going to be blessed. We are meant to be in community. I think that was something else that COVID really took away, and it was so sad. And we need,
and there are lots of groups of people that are excellent at community, like the Amish and, the Mormons, and there's just lots of different groups of people that are really good. They get the community thing, and I think we're lacking in that, and we can build that and learn from that.
Well, and I'm definitely interested in that, and I know you are, and hopefully we can continue. Like, if this can help that,
Yeah.
I'm all about that as well. And I applaud you for becoming a PCO. Thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of people know I'm a PCO as well. And I was chair of the party of the Spokane County Republican Party. So you're a new PCO of the Spokane County Republican Party. And I love that you're getting involved because these policies that impact our lives are made by elected people at some level.
Yeah.
Not 100%. There is the administrative, bureaucratic, whatever you want to call it, that's going on too. But ultimately, it is our elected officials that, have oversight or are, have some kind of control over this. So, whether it's your school boards and whether you're homeschooling or not, you still should be involved in your local school boards, because
Oh,
your
yeah.
children might be okay,
Yeah.
but we need to make sure everybody's children.
Yeah, I care about, just because I homeschool doesn't mean that I don't care about the kids in public school or in a charter school or in a, private school or anything like that. We're all community. And, in our community here, we're outside of Cheney. And so we can vote for school board, but we can't vote for our mayor. We couldn't vote for the city pool. We couldn't vote for the city council members for the districting. And
because of where they drew those lines.
Yeah, they drew those lines. And I'm like, let's knock down that wall. Like I haven't figured out what to do to get some redistricting, if that's the right word. I barely looked into it, but
well, you'd have to go back and look at like the corporation of the city, because that's usually when the lines are drawn, although they can change. In fact, I know
didn't Zappone, didn't he do some redistricting?
But that was within the city limits. So that was the different districts, the different council districts. But you're talking about a city limit, so I don't know, that might have been done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a county thing.
Could be county thing, could have been when it was incorporated. I'd look back to see if it's changed since the city of Cheney has been incorporated. Because they usually draw those lines, but maybe they've changed. I don't know. That's a good question. So yeah, we had a nice comment here. Yes, we should all be able to have a conversation, whether we agree or disagree. Nice job, Emelie. That was from Janet. Janet, thanks for engaging with us. Emelie, I applaud you so much. Thank you for being courageous in your walk and in your faith and in your conviction for obviously not just you, but your whole family. Thank you for standing up in the midst of great adversity and not losing your head. I've been around you enough to know that you did stay amicable, and especially under, these extreme cases when people are questioning what you're doing with your child. That's very, very hard. And so, but I know you to be that way. That doesn't surprise me at all, so just blessings to you and your family. And really, thank you for being courageous to come on here and share your story and tell people, what you've gone through and what you've learned and, what happened to you and your family. And that it is horrific, but we've got to continue to expose it. So, this is an open call. If people out there have another situation like this, that's similar, please contact me, get a hold of me, and let me know. And let's get you on here, because this is not right. This is wrong. Government should not be interfering with situations like this. This is, it's just appalling. And even the medical system. This is a call out to, if you're a medical professional, we have got to do better. We have got to be more humane. You can't expect a 2-year-old to be able to sit in a room for 5 hours and not go berserk. To put a family through that, it's just, there's so many things that are wrong with this. Asking the medical professionals to listen to people, to listen to what people's questions are, what is working, what isn't working. Maybe here you have a case where diet mattered. What you did with the gut mattered. It completely reversed your son's symptoms. I mean, that ultimately should be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. Any final
Thank you
thoughts,
for this
Emelie?
opportunity. I really appreciate it. I can't believe we talked for 2.5 hours. That's wild.
Well,
But,
we'll have to have you on again down the road and see how things are going, or maybe an update with your farm and hear a little bit more. I know I've been dabbling in the sourdough. I love it. 3 ingredients, and you know what they are. And I've even, been experimenting with different flour to make sure that no Roundup has been used.
yeah, milling
And
your flour. Yeah.
yeah, glyphosate. I use Italian
Glyphosate.
flour. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I started milling my own flour and making a brown bread. So it's got all that goodness in it too. And
Yeah.
I'm dabbling in all that, and I love it. And
It's
gardening.
biblical, breaking bread.
Yep. Yep. And it seems like the most wholesome stuff. And I couldn't understand why bread was causing so many problems. My dad was a wheat farmer, and I confirmed it. They're spraying Roundup on that stuff right before they harvest it.
Why is there 16 ingredients in a loaf of bread from the grocery store?
Yep. When we can make it with 3.
Yep.
So start making it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Emelie, blessing to you and your family.
Thank you.
And thank you again. And God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too. Take care.
Okay. Bye, everyone.